As I said at the top of the show, we're going to talk about the new North Carolina Innovative School District and the pushback that's coming from some local communities where schools are targeted for takeover. Joining us in the first segment, we have Wendy Jacobs. Wendy is the chair of the Durham Board of Commissioners. She's also a former classroom teacher and a Durham Public Schools parent ×3. Also joining us is Mike Lee. Mike is the chairman of the Durham Board of Education. He's served on the Board of Education in Durham for 4 years, 2 as chairman. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, I want to start with you because the Durham Board of Education took a position fairly early on, even before the schools were sort of narrowed down to the 6, including 2 in Durham. Why is the school board opposed to the Innovative School District taking over schools in Durham?
Well, in Durham and the Durham Board of Education, we actually believe that the best outcomes of education can come from our communities and from our schools within our system itself. The Innovative School District is an experiment that's failed in other states, and we don't want that experiment here in Durham.
Right. Now, Wendy, you, the county commissioners, jumped into the fray, I guess maybe about a week ago or so, maybe a little longer than that. I guess the same question to you that I just asked Chairman Lee. Why did the Board of Commissioners feel that they wanted to take a position saying this is not something that we want to see in Durham?
Well, the Durham County Board of Commissioners are responsible for funding, all the local funding for our schools. And ultimately, we're responsible for accountability for those funds. And so it's important for us to have as much local control about education and funding as possible.
Well, you raised the question about funding, and that was one I wanted to ask you about. The model for the Innovative School District, which has been used in other states, would have charter school operators are currently looking for, probably for-profit charter operators. Will take over schools in Durham if selected. They would have total control over staffing, over all the operations, the curriculum within the school. But the county commissioners would still be responsible for funding it, right? They'd still be responsible for for transportation, for furniture, for the building.
That's right. So that's a problem.
Well, I can understand.
That's a problem that we would not ultimately have control over how those funds are used.
Right. Now, Mike, one of the things that you've obviously looked at what's happened in other states. One of the knocks on this model, certainly in Tennessee, was the lack of community engagement and buy-in in the process.
That's right.
Does it bother you that that the school board, the superintendent, we're going to talk to parents and PTA next, all said we don't want this, but the state moved ahead anyway. Does that concern you?
That absolutely concerns me. Dr. Eric Hall continues to say he wants it to be a partnership, but the type of meetings and the short notifications and the quick communications shows that they're not really interested in input from Durham County or being a partnership. We know it's a state takeover, and this is not a new idea for them to try to increase school performance. This has been happening. This is an end result of a bunch of things that's been happening in our legislature to degrade public education, and now we're at this point. I think this was an end goal, and the other things that the state legislature wanted to do actually led to this. I don't think this is a partnership at all. I don't think they're interested in a partnership. I think that's optics.
Well, what has been your involvement? I mean, like, I guess when did you know that Durham was on the list? Were you consulted? Did they come and visit the school system, talk to the schools before you made the final list?
Absolutely not. So when we found out when everyone else did, when they released a list of 46, that we were actually on the list. Or five of our schools were on the list. One was eliminated because of a previous school improvement grant that happened. But then the final list came out. We found out about that final list the exact same time everyone else did when it hit the media. The only contact I've had with them was a very short, maybe 30-minute meeting with Dr. Eric Hall last Wednesday.
Okay.
On a Wednesday last week, and we briefly spoke, nothing specific. He didn't know anything about community meetings or school meetings, And then surprisingly, at that 2 days later, a school meeting happened. So I don't think it's a partnership at all. The communication has been terrible.
Chair Jacobs, same experience?
We have received no information about the plan and the innovation school district, any plans involving Durham Public Schools, no formal
All right,
communication.
now let me ask you this. Now, to be fair, I mean, the schools that were selected, that made the list, were schools that were deemed as chronically low performing schools. Now, we can get into whether the measures themselves. I mean, I think we've talked about that on the show.
Right.
But these are schools that have fairly poor achievement results for their students. Do you think something needs to be done, or is it already happening?
Well, we agree that we want to see all of our children succeeding, and we are concerned. But the point is that we have a process that's already in place now. These two specific schools were approved to be restart schools in July, which actually gives them the same flexibility that charter schools have. We have, so there's a process in place that we're going to get the flexibility of management and curriculum that charters have. So there's no benefit to bringing in an outside operator to come in that has the flexibility of charters when we are going to have that now. And we just haven't been even given a chance to implement that. Lakewood Elementary School, for example, just got a brand new principal, an awesome principal. We've got great parents there, great PTA. That's what's important.
Right. Last word for you, Mike. You mentioned the new principal. You have, as a chair of the Board of Education, you have confidence in the leadership and the staff at well, not just at the two schools, but all the schools that you're responsible for as chair. Do you feel like that you're on the right track?
We have absolute confidence in our leadership in our schools and in our administration.
Right.
To lead the schools to the direction that we need to, and especially with the new Restart program. And now finally levels the playing field between charter school legislation and traditional public schools with the regulations.
And so you just to clarify for our guests as we wrap up, these schools that are on the list were granted a lot of flexibility, and you're now just starting to, this would have been the year to start doing that, right?
That's correct. This is our plan. This is our planning year. The Restart program allows for a planning year to see what options each school will take option of. And from that point, we'll use those flexibilities to see about turning around the schools.
Great. Well, thank you both for being here. This is really helpful. We're going to keep an eye on this. This is obviously, the story is not going to be over this week. So, but we're going to talk to the PTA from Lakewood next up. But when we come back, we're going to continue the discussion about the pushback. There was actually a meeting at the school last night that we'll hear about. But first, see if you can answer this question. True or false, if a local school is taken over by the North Carolina Innovative School District, the state and the ISD will assume funding responsibility for all school operations, including students, facilities, and student transportation.